We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In today's Locked On 76ers, we're going to talk a little bit about Jaden Springer and just talk about, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris. But today, I really want to talk about today's podcast, talk about Jaden Springer and the role that he could have for the 76ers. When we think of Jaden, we talk about a guy who, young talent, he's 20 years old, played 2 years in the NBA, about to head into his third season next year. He really didn't get an opportunity to show what he could do for the Sixers. And, it's one of those things where a bad break for him. And what I mean by that is, a first round pick, late first round pick who comes to the 76ers organization, a team that's not really in the mood to build young players like they were when they had the pop process days. Right about now is a team that's built to win the championship, and that's what they're contending for. So he comes, he goes to the G League, he gets called up, he goes back and forth, but he really never got an opportunity to show what he could do. Right about now, he's a guy who's like really working hard while some guys are on vacation. He's been in Charlotte, where his hometown, working on his 3-point shots. And on Tuesday, he he did a 3-point drill where he attempted 121 3-pointers. He made 100 of those. And that video is in YouTube. And if you go to Inquire.com, or if you go and I wrote an article on him about that. If you go to my Twitter feed, if you go to my IG feed, or if you even go to YouTube, go to a YouTube channel and type in Jaden Springer's threes, puts in work, and you'll see all 121 of his shots. And phenomenal effort. Some people might say, look, he's a pro guy. You get a pro in the gym, they shoot a lot of shots. They supposed to make them. True. But also, this is a guy that when he came into the league, that was a huge question mark. Would he be able to make shots? But the thing that's really impressive to me is the fact that this guy right now, he could be at home chilling, relaxing, doing whatever. But he's out there putting in the work already. And he's going to come to Philadelphia to have a chat with actually New Jersey, because the Sixers facility is in Camden. Have a chat with Nick Nurse, the coaching staff. And then from what I hear, he's going to go back down to Charlotte and continue working out. But the question is, can Jaden Springer fulfill a role on this team? I think he can. I do. I think he can. Somebody I was on the radio a couple days ago, and they asked me, Keith, do you think Jaden can be a Shake Milton? Nah, he can't be a Shake Milton. And that's not a knock against Jaden, nor is a knock against Shake. They're just completely different players. You look at Shake Milton. Shake Milton is a guy who could come off the bench and give you instant buckets. Shake isn't he's a scoring guard, right? Whereas you look at Jaden can become, if he continues to work on his three, he could come off the bench and become a solid 3-and-D for you. A guy who can provide quality defense and a guy who can knock down threes. I mean, he was the G League MVP for the G League championship, which the Sixers won this year. He also led the league in steals, right? So we're talking, and then, when he played, when he played late in the season for the Sixers, he showed that he can get buckets for you. Now, again, you're not going to look for him to be that guy to have that Shake Milton type role, but he can be a guy that can come in and get buckets for you. So I feel like with the work ethic, with his strength and all those other things, he can be a guy that's going to be give you quality minutes. Also, I feel like Nick Nurse got a lot of criticism for lack of developing guys this year. But let's face it, he really wanted to win. So there were some young guys that really didn't get an opportunity because he played his starters a lot of minutes. But when I look at this 76ers team and you look at the role that he can fulfill, talking about Jaden Springer, he can come in there and he can provide some defense. He can come in, knock down some shots. I mean, I like his build, solid, strong guy who can go in there and create a lot of havoc, so to speak. So when you look at him, I do feel like he can be that guy. And I'm telling you, the game that gave me confidence in him was when they played the Atlanta Hawks. I want to say it was April 13th. It was a 136-131 overtime victory over the Hawks on April the 7th, right? When we talk about how this guy right here had a career high 19 points on 8 for 13 shooting, right? He helped them battle back from a 15 point deficit. He knotted the score at 117 with a layup with 47.5 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, right? And then his basically his foul shots. He split a pair of foul shots that gave them a 133 to 130 lead with 38.1 seconds left in the overtime. And then he came up with a nice steal, right? To help win the game. So I'm looking at this guy, Jaden Springer, a guy that I think that if he continues to put in the work, if he continues to put in the work, this summer that I think that he can be a contributor. Now, again, I'm not saying he's going to be the sixth man. I'm not saying he's going to be like, you know, sixth or seventh or eighth guy, but I think that he can get some minutes this year and make that next step forward on his progression and be a quality contributor for them. You know, if he continues to work hard this summer, I really do. I like him, and I think he could be that guy, right? But see, look, let's talk about prize pick right now, right? When you talk about prize picks, like Jaden Springer is a guy who, you know, is going to be a guy that the 76ers and are going to depend on next year or could depend on next year. He's going to be a guy that, you know, when we talk about prize picks, you know, he's a guy who can possibly, you know, contribute and do things. And maybe next year we'll talk about him in this way. Because see, during the NBA playoffs and NBA finals, prize picks users could win a chance to become a millionaire, right? One entry placed after 8 a.m. Eastern Time will be randomly selected each day. Whoever placed that entry will be given a six-pick flex with the following payouts: six correct picks, $1 million; five correct picks, $80,000; four correct picks, $16,000. So, like with prize picks, what it was like, you know, what I did is with Nikola Jokic, right? Tonight I was taking Nikola Jokic to score more than 26.5 points. You know, then you had like when LeBron James is playing, kind of like LeBron James to have more than 7.5 rebounds, Kevin Durant to have less than 6.5 assists, and Steph Curry to have more than 3.5 3-pointers made. You know, that's how it was going. So it worked like what you would do is you would pick 2 to 6 players, and if they will go score more and less than the prize pick projections, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. There was no competing against other people. It was just you and the projections available. And prize pick projections are on any sport that you watch. That include the NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PJ golf, college football, men's college football, WNBA, on and on. So what you would do is you would download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com and sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First time users can receive 100% instant deposit matched up to $100 with the promo code locked on. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget the end of the promo code locked on and sign up, and for an instant deposit match up to $100. I'm telling you, do it today, people. Definitely do it today. So when we talk about a guy like Tyrese Maxey, right? We Jaden Springer is a guy that we're saying that with a lot of work, he can become a rotation player. Tyrese Maxey is a guy I believe that he can score at the rim. He can hit the three. Stuff that he worked on. Like he could always score at the rim. Hitting the three is something that he worked on this past off season. One of the best 3-point shooters in the league, right? But I also believe this summer is going to be vital for him. Work a little bit on his mid-range game. He could become a 3-level scorer. Outside of that, I believe if he works on his defense, he could become a much improved defender. That was a weakness. But then towards the end of the season, it was an area that he really worked on and he showed some improvement, right? I think that Tyrese, in the right situation, can become a fringe all-star. I felt like he was that way early in the season, where you consider him like, can he become most improved player? Can he become a friend? And once he was injured, I feel like that kind of like took any chance out that he had of being the most improved player or becoming an all-star. I feel like if he works on his mid-range game and if he works on his defense, the sky's the limit. Now, again, that's also going to be predicated on how successful the Sixers are. Like we all know Joel Embiid is going to be an all-star, right? James Harden becomes back. If he becomes, let's say, leads the league in assists again, he does scoring, he plays a little bit more games. What a lot of people in the Sixers are successful, they'll probably say Harden. Let's see if he's an all-star. But I feel like in order for Maxey to make it, the Sixers will have to have at that particular time the best record in the East, or at least the second best record in the East. So all that stuff is going to be involved in that, right? To see if he can do it. But I think that he could take that step forward to at least be in the conversation. I mean, I honestly do. Like, I feel like when we look at him as a late first round pick, and you see the things that he has done, he's been given opportunities. The thing is, when Ben Simmons, before he was traded, when he refused to play for the Sixers, Tyrese Maxey came in and played well. And he kind of like took advantage of his opportunity. And he's been a hard worker. He's continued to work hard and continued to make improvements. So I think the next step, like I said, is the mid-range game and his defense. And if he can do that, I think he's going to be a fringe all-star. When we get back, we're going to talk about Tobias Harris. Let's talk about Tobias Harris. Now, Tobias Harris is someone to me where I honestly believe that Tobias Harris will be better off if he goes elsewhere, right? I think that, for Tobias, right now you look at him, and if everything stays the same, if James comes back, Joel's still here, which he's expected to be, Max, he expected to be, Tobias is going to be a fourth option. And when you look at him, he's a scoring guy. He showed that he improved his defense, but I feel like he will be better suited as a team where he could be a second option, at least a third option. But here he's a fourth option, and the problem is you really can't move Tobias until you figure out what you're going to do with James and what's going to happen with James. It looks like beforehand it looked like James was gone. Now it looks like James is probably going to come back. There's a lot of optimism that James could come back now. And so, but at the same time, until it happens, you don't know what to do with Tobias, right? It's one of those things like you don't want to get rid of Tobias before you're 100% sure with James, right? So he has to wait. But the thing is, I wonder how it's going to be. I mean, let's keep it real. This is Tobias's last season. He would love to get an extension. I doubt if he gets an extension. I don't see it happening. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, he can help you win a championship. And if you trade him right now, I'm being a little devil's advocate. If you trade him right now, you're probably not going to get equal value for him because people are going to say, look, that's a lot of money he's making. You look at him as a fourth option. You're probably going to want to get some quality guys. And we think he may be overpaid. So you're really not going to get the equal value for him. But at the same time, if he stays and he just leaves at the end, you're not going to get anything for him. Yes, he comes off the books, but you're not going to get anything for him. And a lot of times when things like that happen, you would love to get something in exchange for him. So, that's where the 76ers are when it comes down to Tobias. But I honestly think that if it doesn't work out, it could be kind of sort of like a problem because he's not going to be happy. Now, again, if they're number one and the ball is moving and he gets a little and more involved, yeah, of course he's going to be happy. But if not, if it becomes like it was last year, the James Harden show, the Joel Embiid show, and Tobias is standing around looking, he's going to start thinking like, man, I'm missing out on some money. And I don't think that's going to be good for the 76ers or it's going to be good for him. So that's something I really want to pay attention to. But at the same time, I know that the Sixers are in a tough spot because you don't want to get rid of this guy at this particular time until you're 100% sure what's going to happen with James. You just don't want to get rid of this guy. Not right now. You don't. You don't. But hey, that's why Daryl Morey's making the millions of dollars doing what he has to do, and we'll see, we'll see. But bringing them back will make the Sixers better. But I don't know unless they win a championship, and if they're like 3 or 4, I don't know if it's good for him, right? 3 or 4 mean talking about in the standings in the East, things like that. But I want to thank y'all for listening and have a blessed day. Peace.